Hello everyone. Thanks for watching ZYCOO technical training presentation based on the new software version v3.02. Previously, we had introduced the basic installations of Kovac series based on the v3.01 software, including the quick setup wizard, endpoints auto provision, outbound and inbound settings. Today we are going to review some basic settings and preview some new features available on the v3.02 software. First, let's take a look again at the quick setup wizard. As we can see, a lot of elemental settings could be done by going through the quick setup wizard from within the same screen, without locating the settings here and there on different menu pages. And it will guarantee you that you will not miss any important settings, which will affect on the stability and the performances. So, it's recommended not to skip it on the new system initial setup. If you do skip the quick setup wizard, then the default administrator login credentials will be set as username admin and the password admin. After you're clicking on the skip button, you will be redirected to the login screen and you will have to log in with the default credentials. And if you have skipped the quick setup wizard for system security, please do change the default credentials on first login. There's one situation that you can skip quick setup wizard, and it is recommended to skip it. After a system reset, you may skip quick setup wizard and use a backup to restore the configurations. Either you can use an offline backup or a local backup. The local backup stored on the Kovac series will not be deleted after a system reset. After going through the quick setup wizard, departments and extension numbers had been created already. All you have to do next is set up the endpoints, maybe some IP phones, analog phones, soft phone apps, and maybe web extensions. The provision of the soft phone app will be introduced later as a new feature available on the new software v3.02. As it's very easy to provision IP phones by PMP and quick register code, so I will not introduce the procedures again. But some notices of using PMP and quick register code should be mentioned. First, these two methods could not be used at the same time. And PMP is suitable for multiple accounts and DSSK configurations. And the quick register code is suitable for single account configurations. It can only configure one extension number, and nothing else could be configured. So you should first connect those phones which need multi accounts or need DSSK settings to the line and use PMP to configure them. Then you should disable PMP and then connect those phones which only need one single extension number to the line and use quick register code to configure them. Otherwise, if you connect the phones at the same time, PMP will discover all phones and you may not aware which phones need multiple accounts and which ones need only a single extension number. Of course, Either of these two methods could be used to configure all phones, and you don't necessarily need to use both of them. It depends on which ways you prefer. On V302 for PMP per version, we had added options to use your customized URL for the phones to download config files and options to choose from one or line interface for phone provisioning. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, here you can choose between 1 and 9 interface, and depend on which interface you have used to connect to your line, the same line as the IP phones. And here's a custom URL. You can define the FTP, TFTP, or HTTP server address for the phones to download the config files. These options are new on the V302 software. Okay, the next, provision analog phones by using EX16S. The EX16S expansion box had been working with the Quark series since the V2 software. On V302 software, we had added the option to provision the EX16S from one online interface of the Quark series as well. Okay, let's take a look. Here we had added the option to choose between 1 and 9 interface. Okay, next, activate extension user web portal, and it's also as known as the web extension. If you want the extension user being able to access their web portal, you will have to activate web portal option for their extensions from the extension management page. Okay, let's take a look. Here, the IP extensions, and edit one of the extension, and click on the features, and the web portal option is here. Just simply switch it on, then the extension user web portal is activated for this extension. If you want to activate web portal for more extensions, you can just select those extensions and click on BackEdit features and turn it on, and click on save. That's all. After this, the extension user will be able to log in the extension user web portal by using the extension number and the extension password from the same login page where the admin and the operator user login. Okay, let's try the 100 extension. Okay, here is the password. Actually, we have to give this password to the extension user, so he or her can log in to the web portal. Okay, sign out, and we use the extension number and the extension password to sign in the extension user web portal. Here is the notice from the Chrome browser, which want to show notifications to the extension user for the incoming calls. We should click on allow to allow the browser send the notification. Okay, here's the extension user web portal. We can use the dial pad to make phone calls, and we can receive inbound calls directly from the extension user portal. We have contacts, call logs, voicemail, fax, call forward, feature codes, and also the extension QR code. Okay. After all endpoints had been configured with the ZYCOO series IP PBX, next step would be configuring the outbound routes for the phones being able to make outbound phone calls. The first prerequisite for configuring outbound routes would be the trunks. The physical trunks, FXO, GSM, U1, T1, and BRI trunks are automatically generated. There's no need to create them. For the FXO and U1, T1 trunks, we had added a new parameter which could quicken the number dial speed via the FXO and U1, T1 trunks. It's called the quicksend number. Let's take a look at it. Here's my FXO trunks, and the option is here. When this option is enabled, the dialed number which will actually be sent to the carrier will be added with pound at the end. When the carrier exchange receives the number with a pound key, the exchange will process the number immediately, instead of wait until digit timeout. It will save you some time of dialing a number. If your carrier doesn't support this, when you're dialing a number, you may probably hear a voice prompt that the dial number does not exist. Then you will have to disable this parameter. Okay, the next, except the physical trunks, you may create VoIP trunks to connect to the ITSP for low rate, long distance, and the international calls. On the V302, X trunk is not supported, and it is mainly used for IPPBX interconnection. Okay, when you have all trunks ready, the next step would be configuring dial rules. You may create several different dial rules according to the different usage of the trunks. For example, FXO trunk for domestic calls, SIP trunk for international calls. Then you may create two different dial rules, and for different dial rules, you should use different dial prefixes. Okay, let's take a look at some examples of the dial rules. Go to the telephony outbound control trunks page. Here I have 4 FXO trunks and 1 SIP trunk. The 4 FXO trunks are for domestic phone calls, and the SIP trunk is for international calls. So I need to create two dial rules, one for domestic calls, another for international calls. First, I will create the domestic dial rule. Domestic, I use prefix 9 and the pattern, and select the trunks and submit. Okay, here I have created the domestic dial rule. Now I'm creating the international dial rules. International dial rule, I to use dial prefix 0 and the pattern, and select the SIP trunk. So the numbers dialed with the prefix 9 will take the one of the 4 FXO chunks, and the numbers dialed with the prefix 0 will take the SIP chunk. After all dial rules been created, next I'll have to configure the dial permissions. The dial rules created previously have to be enabled in the dial permission, so eventually the extension user can dial the specific numbers using the dial rules. You may use one or more dial permissions depending on whether you want all users to have same dial permission or different dial permissions. Different dial permissions are created by including different dial rules in each of the permission. Let's take a look. Go to the dial permissions page. Here I have created 2 different dial permissions. One of the dial permission I will give both domestic and international call permissions, and submit. And the next one I will only give the domestic call permissions and submit. So if I assign these 2 different dial permissions to the extensions will have different dial permissions. And the extensions with the dial plan 1 permission will have both domestic and international phone call permissions. The extensions will dial plan 2 dial permission will only have the permission to dial the domestic numbers, domestic calls from the FXO chunks. Not only the outbound dial permission, but also internal dial permissions could be controlled by creating different dial permissions. Here's an example. I'm creating an internal dial permission. I will not assign any outbound dial permissions to it, and I'm disabling all internal dial permissions too. Now if I assign this dial permission to one extension number, that extension will only be able to answer incoming calls, but cannot dial any numbers, no matter external phone numbers or internal extensions, or even the feature codes. That's the dial permission. After all permissions being created and configured, next you'll have to assign them to the extension numbers. Go to the extension page, and we can configure the dial permissions. We'll assign the dial permissions to the extensions from here. Okay, next. That's all for outbound settings. Next, for the incoming calls being able to be handled correctly, now we have to configure inbound settings. On QuVox series, the following items could all be the inbound call destinations. So far, the items on the left are all ready to be used. The items are right. Some of them need to be created. Some other need to be configured if you want any of them to be the core destinations. The IVR, core queue, paging group, DISA need to be created. The conference and fax need to be configured. Among these core destinations, extension, voicemail, hang-up, paging group, conference, and the fax are the final destinations, which means the calls will be terminated upon these destinations. Others are more likely a transfer station. The calls will have further destinations to reach. For example, if you set the inbound call destination as a trunk, it means the inbound call will be transferred via this trunk. This trunk could be used to interconnect the COVAX series with some other PBX systems. COVAX series then is functioning as a gateway. Okay, next let's see how to create these core destinations. The first one, IVR. IVR is the most important inbound call destination, which will guide the callers to reach their final call destination. A well-configured IVR system will bring the callers good calling experiences and also will improve the call processing efficiency of your COVAX series IP phone system. To set up an IVR menu, please first create the IVR prompts. The prompt's audio file format can be either MP3 or WAV format. If WAV format, it should be 16-byte encoding, 8 kHz sampling, and mono. Let's take a look at how to set up IVR menu from the web interface. First, go to the audio library, IVR prompts. This page is where you upload the IVR prompts. Once done, we're going to configure the IVR menu. Now I'm going to configure the IVR menus. For multi-layer IVRs, the NAST level should be configured at first. For example, I will configure a 2-layer IVR system. The first layer is for language selection. The second layer is consists of 2 submenus. One is for Chinese services, another is for English services. Now I have to create these 2 submenus first. Click on the Add button to create an IVR menu. I will create the submenu first. First, create the Chinese services submenu. I'm selecting the Chinese voice prompts and the playback for twice, and enable dialing extension number directly when the callers hear the IVR prompts. And now I'm going to configure the events. The events should be configured exactly as what has been said in the voice prompts. For example, press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, press 0 to reach the operator. Okay, it's done. Okay, next, the same for the English services menu. Click on it, select the voice prompts, playback for twice, enable dial extensions, and press 0 to reach the operator, press 1 to reach the sales, and press 2 to reach the support. Okay, done. Now the submenus are ready. We will have to create the language selection menu. Okay, select the voice prompt language, playback for twice, enable dial extension number directly from AVR, and here press 0 for Chinese services, press 1 for English services. Okay, done. Now the AVR menus had been created. All I have to do is direct the. Now the AVR menus had been created. All I have to do is forward the inbound calls to the language selection AVR. Then the whole AVR system will work. But before this, another factor, the time conditions need to be considered. If you want the inbound calls being handled according to the business hours of your company, then you need to configure the time rules and apply the time conditions to the inbound routes settings. Okay, let's take a look at the time condition settings. Here on this page is where you configure the time conditions. First, we have to define the weekdays and the business hours during each weekday. There can be several time blocks of business hours on each weekday, and the business hours of each weekday could be different. Other undefined time or days are all non-business hours. Now weekdays have been configured, but there might be holidays out of the weekdays. So we have to set the holidays as non-business hours. Here, for example, Christmas from December the 24th to December the 26th. And you may add more holidays from this screen. Once the weekdays and holidays being defined, we have to configure the time rules. Okay, we have to select the weekdays and the holidays. Okay, the time conditions. Now the time conditions had been okay. Now the Quarks series IP phone system knows when is your business hours and when is not. Next would be applying the time conditions to the inbound route settings. Inbound route is set on trunk basis. The time conditions could either be applied or not based on your requirement. And AVR should better be the first destination of the inbound call from the trunks. Here you have a list of all your chunks. For inbound route settings, if you want all inbound calls being handled by the same time condition or the inbound call destinations, you may use BackEdit feature. First select all the chunks. Click on BackEdit. Here for the time rules, you may apply the time rule you have just configured. And when you have applied the time rules, then there will be business hours and non-business hours for the IP phone system. For business hours, it's better be the IVR should better be the first call destination, and we have just configured the IVR system. The first layer is the language selection, and for non-business hours, you may select the inbound calls to go to any other call destinations. Here I prefer the inbound call on non-business hours to go to the voicemail of extension 100. Okay, now we have a general inbound route configured, and the inbound calls should be routed and handled as you have configured. That's the general inbound route settings. But sometimes there are events off the timetable of the company. For example, on a weekday, the office has to be closed for an hour. The inbound calls might not be handled as usual, and so you will have to set a temporary inbound destination for the inbound calls. Now on V302, we have added the office close timing feature for the user to set a temporary inbound destination for inbound calls, and set and unset by feature code. Before using the feature code, we first have to define the office closed destination. For example, I dial the office closed feature code and all the inbound calls to go to the voicemail box of extension 100. I have to first configure here, and then those feature code for office closed feature can be used. Dial the *81 to turn on the office closed timing, and all the phone calls will go to the voicemail box of extension 100. When the event is over and the office is open again for business, and you will just have to dial *081 to turn off the office close timing, and all the inbound phone calls will go to the all the inbound calls will be processed by the general inbound routes as usual. All the inbound calls will be handled by the general inbound routes as usual. Okay, the office close timing. Okay, next, direct routing. Except the inbound control settings, there are some other scenarios. You might want certain inbound calls to be handled by a specific person without any other conditions. Then you could use direct routing feature. Direct routing could be configured to work on DID number and the corner number basis. Direct routing based on DID number could be used as a VIP9. For example, you have an UI9 and you got DID numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You want callers who dial 23456 to be answered by a specialized person. You may create a direct routing using this DID number 23456. Another example, there's a VIP customer, and you want his or her call to your company to be always handled by someone. You may create a direct routing using the VIP customer's phone number, the caller number. Okay, now let's see how to create these two kinds of direct routing. Go to the inbound control direct routing page, and first we create the direct routing based on DID number. If I want someone to call 23456, the calls always go to extension 101. I create direct routing like this. And for the VIP customer, 34567, I want his call always go to extension 102. Okay, that's done. The time conditions and the general inbound route will not affect on the direct routing settings. Okay, that's all for inbound route settings. Next, I will introduce you some more new features. Okay, the first new feature, ZYCOO IP Proxy feature. It's now available on the V302 software, and we had deployed proxy servers in China, Singapore, UK, and the US. With the support of ZYCOO IP Proxy, remote SIP extensions, remote IP PBX interconnection with SIP trunk will never be easier, because no more port forwarding and NAT settings required. Let's see how you can activate the proxy server support on the V302 software. Okay, after upgrading the latest V302 software, there will be a menu on the bottom on the left. Under this menu, there you can find the ZYCOO proxy and the ZYCOO API. Let's first activate the proxy server support, as even if we are going to use ZYCOO, it will need the proxy server support. Okay, click on the ZYCOO proxy. Here on this page, you will have to fill in this form for the proxy server activation. Please fill in the company info and the contact info. We will use the contact info you have provided to send you the certificate. After this, you have to select a server. The server must be the nearest to your country, and you have to define a preferred prefix of the domain name. For example, training. Then the domain name is supposed to be training.sip.zycoo.com, and this domain name will be assigned to your IP PBX. Please make sure the prefix you defined is unique and positive. Otherwise, we'll have to assign a random prefix for you. Once done, please click on the Submit button, and then click on the Download source file button. and send the downloaded source file to our authorized distributor or our sales manager. We will provide you with the certificate file within 3 workdays. The certificate is like this. You just have to upload it from the proxy server screen, then it will be activated. Okay, let's upload. Okay, click on enable. After uploading the certificate file, the proxy server will be activated in a few seconds. You will see the status displayed as registered. Now you could download ZYCOO from the mobile phone app store and scan the extension QR code to register remote extension directly.